Where does your voice come from? This is a question I've been posing quite a lot recently, and today I'm going to do a bit of a scrappy video about the influence of our family, I think, and one of the journeys that we have to do when we're looking at our voice, which is to continually come back to the person who we thought we'd outgrown. So if you don't know me, I'm Alex. I'm a voice coach, and I also talk about authenticity, for want of a word, like having a voice that feels like your voice. And as I record this, I'm in a cemetery in Prague. It will be by the time this is published, I will not be in Prague anymore. Looking out at this beautiful sunset over here, and thinking about going back to my parents or my family house. And often, I think, so we're going to talk about a little bit about the influence of that, a look on and vocal congruence, like how much does your voice feel about yourself, and why feeling frustrated with the process with the voice is actually like part of the process, and we should embrace it. So I'm about to go back, as many people are, for Christmas. As I say, once this is published, it's probably past Christmas, but it doesn't matter because there are many times in our life when we have to kind of go back into the belly of the beast, which is family, or if we don't have family, like there are whichever communities or places we've grown up in. Often we find ourselves like reverting back into previous versions of ourselves, and suddenly you're like, Mom, why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, I'm an adult now. Why am I doing this sort of thing? And because looking into the research that I've been looking into about voice, because it's so societally imposed, our voice, a lot of the things that we pick up about what is good voice use or correct voice use is because people have either told us explicitly, don't shout like that, or don't talk like that, or don't do this, or we've just learnt from how people talk and how people talk with themselves, for example. My family is quite sort of, it was positive in some ways, but everyone has got really low self-worth, and how people talk to themselves, particularly my dad in my case, has really rubbed off on me. And so I have to like deal with my own low self-worth, you know, and that's part of being a human, really. We learn these I was going to say techniques, habits from the people around us, and we and then we go away and we overcome them. We find versions of us that are better, that feel more like us. Maybe our literal voice stops. We stop getting annoyed by listening to our voice because we're like, oh, I've chosen this voice, and I have heard myself being confident and brilliant in different situations. And then we go back into those environments, and suddenly all of those habits that we thought we got rid of, they come back again, because we're back into that environment, the society that instilled them in the first place. And so it makes total sense that suddenly, you know, the body goes, okay, we're back here, we're gonna communicate like this. And so let's like talk about like vocal congruence. So I did a video about this from a research paper, and I think it's a really interesting one, is that when we can feel it into our body, when we've got good interoception about what's actually going on inside our body, listening to our heartbeat or feeling our breath or whatever, when we've got high awareness of what's going on, we can actually feel like our voice, physical voice, is more us, and that's a great sign for voice work. But it is also an interesting one if we take it sort of a bit more abstractly, going back into those environments where we find ourselves using our voice in a way that we don't actually like anymore, like going back to family. Is that the person inside who we've become is still us. So one of the things I'm planning to do this Christmas, and then we'll see how it goes, is to spend a lot of time kind of going back into myself, you know, because these external factors are very strong, and we can be very quickly sort of pulled away by them. So if another example of that is if you get really scared on stage, for example. Every time your body goes on stage, it goes into this, it sees this external stuff, and it sort of feels, oh my God, I'm on stage, and then your voice starts to be tense, and everything goes out the window, everything you've been practicing. But if we can reconnect with what's actually going on within our body, then we can start to sort of retrain train the body and the brain and all of the pieces, the system, as I think, to be able to use more helpful vocal habits in those situations where we find it's scary or whatever. And that's sort of a helpful bit from the research around vocal congruence, I think, is this because our internals are always our internals, we have at least that as a way to come back. And of course, mindfulness, breathing, all these sort of things, they work for a reason, and I think maybe part of it is that it allows us to come back into who we are. And yeah, finishing off, like why is it a good thing to go back into these environments? I always feel like when I go back to my parents or to my family home, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I could use this energy better. I'd be better served like teaching people rather than going back and having to deal with these just family dynamics like we have. Everyone has if they have a family. And even if you don't, you'll have to maybe have that dynamic with someone else, and I think it's useful for showing us how far we've come, and two, for showing us giving us a really good practice location for probably the hardest dynamics in the world. Nobody is great in those dynamics. Nobody shows up as their best. Nobody gets to be the best version of themselves when they're in a family dynamic that has always been strenuous. And I certainly found every time I've gone back that because I've come with new tools, whether they're mental tools of mental fortitude and resilience, or whether they're physical voice tools of going, okay, I'm going to check in with my voice now. They are actually, you can test them out and you can show you, when you're good in those environments, you'll be good in any environments. So I'm going to leave now. I'm going to end this video because my arm is getting a bit tired. Just if you find yourself ever in those environments where it's stressful to use your voice, take it as a learning opportunity and connect back in with yourself and your body. And if not, go out and enjoy the sunset. Have a lovely time where you are at this moment, and see you later.